When you edit, color grade, or make visual effects, you want a smooth playback and fast renders. Even when you add complex color grades and heavy fusion effects, it's not about buying expensive hardware. It's about robust techniques, smart settings, and proven tips and tricks from a professional workflow. In this course, you will learn how to set up DaVinci Resolve 16 to run like a beast, even on a modest computer. Because a lot of things in DaVinci Resolve 16 are using the GPU, you want to make sure that your GPU is set correctly in the settings. You are going to notice that some people start complaining and blaming DaVinci Resolve for low performance, but they have not set their system right. Okay? They just open the thing and start working without setting anything. That is not how it's done. Okay? So first, we come here to DaVinci Resolve and preferences. By default, it's on the media storage. You go to memory and GPU, and this is your most important setting to make sure you don't mess up with the graphics card usage. Right, let's talk about graphics cards. Now, I'm not going to go into the details, but it's about how to set it right in DaVinci. How many graphic cards do you have? Let me show you my device manager. I've got two. I've got the lousy Intel HD Graphics 4000, which basically just means it's something to make sure you're able to see stuff, right? Okay, on the screen. Good. It's just a standard thing that ships with the computer. And then you've got the NVIDIA GeForce or your AMD with DaVinci Resolve, the free version. You can use one, but you are limited to one graphic card. So you need to choose the strong graphic card, okay, the powerful one. And you need to make sure that the processing mode is adequate for the type of card that you have. Is it an NVIDIA? Then it must be CUDA. This is one of the reasons some people could have errors when you get that dialog box that says GPU memory full. It basically means that you did not set the NVIDIA with CUDA, you've set it with OpenCL. Yes, I know in DaVinci Resolve 15, it used to be set by itself, like you didn't need to do it. But I think you need to be a little bit aware of your GPU. If most of the processing is done in GPU, now even the scopes, and talking about scopes, you've got it here as well, use GPU scopes. Even the scopes are using GPU. So please set it right. So you have your NVIDIA, go with CUDA. Oh, by the way, if you have just one, what if you just have one card like this, just this one? Then you go with OpenCL, okay? And if you have AMD, then you go with OpenCL, and then there's another one which is Metal. Just check your card, what is the best processing mode by default. It's not really the best one in DaVinci Resolve. It's how it was created. Okay, so NVIDIA is working on CUDA and developing CUDA, so this is why it works best with CUDA. Make sure, please. I mean, when you start, you never want to leave anything at auto. So go choose your stuff, CUDA, NVIDIA, then in GPU selection mode, go to manual, select your stuff, and then come back to auto. And make sure, yeah, do I read it right? Video card, yeah, that's my card, brilliant, that's the one, fantastic. Then you keep this one on, obviously, because you want to have greater detail when you're working in the scopes. When you work with raw footage, you have the possibility to reduce the resolution of the decoding. Let me show you. Here I have red footage, and here I have raw footage, and here I have Ursa, also raw, okay? Let me show you here in the settings, camera raw, and here you have your decode quality. This is the setting you want to change from full resolution to a lower resolution if you want to have less data to worry about for the cut stage, for the edit stage. Maybe you set it back at fusion stage and color stage because you want to have all the data, and this actually you should raw to be able to color grade it with that much data, okay, at that high resolution. You can still work up till color and work on the color and then come back and change it to full res, because you need to change it to full res before delivering. Okay, the decode quality is happening for real. It's not just faking it for the preview. It's happening for real. So when you come to the deliver page, if you come here and go for, okay, red, got my red here, and I go to 1/16 or 1/4 resolution, good, something like that. You could choose a lower bitrate or whatever, but I think I'll just keep it at 10. You are able to, let's go with save. Then what you can do to make sure that you do not forget and then export with that lower resolution, using and processing that lower resolution in the deliver tab, there is under advanced settings, in these advanced settings, there is here force debayer to highest quality. If you click this one and you want to have it clicked in your template project so that you don't forget it, it's always there activated for you. When you click this, you make sure that no matter what changes you have made here in the code quality, it is for the render always going to the highest quality in the decode. Okay, you could also do force sizing to highest quality. Okay, that's to make sure that actually you do not end up using, I mean, you do set it at the very early stages of the project, and by the time you deliver, it's already some time, so you might forget that. Something you want to set it at the very beginning. Once you said you do them together, this one and deliver, they go together. Okay. Another point here about the cameras, you notice that you've got Arri, Blackmagic, Canon. There is VariCam, Panasonic VariCam, for which there is no option. So it depends on the camera and it depends on the time. So by now, there is nothing for VariCam, but probably in the future there will be. They're used not to be in for Canon RAW. They didn't used to have these options. It used to be only full res, but now there is more. So check for your camera, actually even before shooting. If you want to reduce this resolution while working, check for your camera what possibilities there are, okay? Optimized media is another way of working faster in DaVinci Resolve 16. Now, first things first, we need to know that optimized media are used throughout the whole workflow, from media, including this viewer, up till the deliver if you want. Now, no one delivers optimized media for the final project, but should you want to deliver using the optimized media, you can do that. It is possible to use it in the cut, in the edit, in the fusion, in color, in Fairlight. You can use it all the way. Sometimes you hear some people say that optimized media in DaVinci Resolve are only used for the edit stage. And once you reach fusion and color, DaVinci Resolve does not use the optimized media. This is completely wrong. Optimized media is used throughout the whole workflow. However, what is correct is that when you apply an effect to a clip, a fusion effect to a clip, the fusion cache takes over from the optimized media. So it is used instead of the optimized media, but it is based on the optimized media. Okay, so you want to use it all the time, but then for selected codecs that are difficult to decode. Why do we use optimized media? For a simple reason. If you're going to shoot 4K, I have here, I've selected a few things. I've selected footage from Arri Alexa, from Red, RAW from Ursa, and I've got some MXF files from Sony SF7. I've got some stock footage, and God knows stock footage is H.264 mostly. So that is a criminal compression, which is really bad. Bad as in DaVinci Resolve or any software in the world, any software that is NLE for editing video is going to have to work more when you give that software an H.264. This is why optimized media is there, but it's also for RAW, okay? Also for RAW, and I have deliberately gotten a stock footage 4K because this is the recipe for disaster. The recipe for disaster is a 4K footage with H.264. This combination is exactly, it's like you're insulting your NLE. How dare you give a 4K H.264? But sometimes you have to, okay? You never want to shoot that. Never shoot 4K. If you notice, these are our projects from, these are our own projects, Arri Alexa, Red, Ursa. We don't have H.264 stuff. It's either RAW or worst case scenario, we go with MXF, okay? To demonstrate how bad H.264 is, I had to use stock footage. And yes, it is a valid thing that when you need to use stock footage, it's already shot. It is already there. And if it's not really bespoke thing, as in you ask some people to shoot it for you, then it's already there. It's already in a particular format that is uploaded and you just need to buy it. This is why you have less control. And this is why you also need to optimize it. Now, we are going to go through the steps for how to do that. But first things first is to know what codecs, what formats and codecs need to be optimized. Let me start by saying all of them except those that are similar to the target optimized media. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, when we reach that stage of changing, deciding what format needs to be converted to, then you think, well, I don't need to convert it because it's already in that format. That's the only exception. So I would recommend you get in the habit of optimizing most your media. Okay, because optimizing media does take time. Once generating them takes time. Then after that, everything goes really smooth. Good. Step number one in the how to do it is go to the DaVinci Resolve, Preferences, and the System Settings. In the System Settings, you'll find Media Storage. Now, this is the important bit about the hardware. You need to have your first listed scratch disk a reasonably fast one. And I'm not going to put too much pressure on what kind of hardware you need to have. If you have an NVMe SSD, brilliant. You don't have to have it, but if you have it, that's brilliant. That's the one you want to choose. If you have an SSD, that's good. So if you don't have an NVMe SSD, then your second choice is SSD. If you don't have an SSD, your second choice is an internal hard disk. If you don't have an internal hard, okay, you're going to have an internal hard disk, but maybe you don't have enough storage in the internal hard disk, because it does take, if you have a feature film, they need to create optimized media. It's going to take some storage. Okay, so that storage, if you don't have it internally, you can use, so the third preference is internal hard disk. If you don't have it, you can use an external hard disk, but it needs to be not USB powered. So the one you want to avoid is USB powered. And if you are going to go with the external, you want to go with a 7,200 rotation per minute. And please pay attention that if you're going to buy one, and if you can't find the RPM, chances are the manufacturer is just hiding it because it's rubbish. Okay, those who know it's 7,200, they put it at the front, tell you, I have a 7,200. Oh, look at this. Here, that's what I mean. I've got a Freecom that is 7,200 RPM, and I call it like that because I have another Freecom which is 4,400. Okay, sorry, 5,400. So the 5,400 RPM USB powered is the hard disk you never want to use. Okay, you never want to use. External 5,400 USB powered. You never want to do that. Okay, everything else is a matter of gets faster and faster up till NVMe. So this is stage number one. Make sure this is okay, right? So step number two in the how to do it is we go to the master settings of the project here, project settings, master settings, and we go down. Normally it shows like this, time format, video form, and you go down here and you have these two very important ones. Let's start with number 4, which is working folders. Remember that scratch disk that we had in the that we just talked about? That's what you need to choose. Okay, so you just browse and click on a folder in that disk. Make sure it is the case for both of them, okay? Because optimized media is using this as well. Cool. We need it for the cache as well, but we'll talk about the cache later. All right, so that's step number 2 in how to do it. Step number 3 is, okay, now we're set. We are going to come here to your media and then playback and make sure it is on by default. If you forget it, it's even better because it's on by default. But just make sure it is activated. Use optimized media if available. Okay, so that's step number 3. Step number 4 is now it's time to make that optimized media. So how do we do it? Simple. You don't want to start clicking and then, okay, what do I have? Codec, Apple ProRes 422. It does not need to be converted into optimized media because I'll show you why. Because let me just come here. Here, this is because. Right. So we are going to change everything towards the yellow ones. And there's SDR, standard dynamic range. Anything, if you're shooting in SDR, and this is mostly the case, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you are shooting SDR, okay? If you know what I'm talking about, then probably you are shooting HDR as well. So if you are shooting HDR, high dynamic range, then you want to go with, you want to convert anything to ProRes 444. If you are on a Mac. If you are not on a Mac, you want to convert it to DNX HR 444. Okay, so this is for HDR. But because in most cases, you're going to be using SDR, this is rarely the case. So the red one is rarely the case. You are most often than not going to go with the yellow one. So ProRes 422 LT. That's what needs to be, that's the target destination. Why am I showing you this? Let's come back. Because when you find Apple ProRes 422, that's the original file. What's the point of converting it? It is already in ProRes 422 LT. That's the destination codec that DaVinci Resolve loves to work with. So there's no point changing it, right? Good. Okay, so this is why I'm showing you this. And I also need to show you this when we come to the choice. So now when we look at this, red row needs to change. Row, DNG needs to change. MXF definitely needs to change. Stock footage, absolutely. This is a criminal compression. H264 definitely needs to change. 4K, we said it's the recipe for disaster, definitely needs to change. So what do we have here? I deliberately put something here that does not need compressions, that we know how to work with the rules. And I think, okay, what you need to do is just right click and then go to generate optimized media. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Am I going to do this for clip by clip? If I have a feature film, it's going to be hundreds of them. So is there a faster way to do it? Obviously, no one does it one by one. No one does it even by folder. You do it by smart bins. You come here, okay, and you go to add smart bin, okay, and you create your optimized or optimize to optimize, or call it whatever you want, to optimize. Okay, what is a smart bin? Okay, smart bin is dynamic, meaning if it is already optimized, it's not going to show up here. How do I tell the smart bin this? I'm going to go to media pool properties, keep it like that, and go to optimized media. Optimized media. If optimized media is none, meaning there is no optimized media, then click on this. And if you have a codec, video codec, which in my case does not contain, so I want to optimize everything except the Apple ProRes. So I say ProRes, then you notice I haven't even created the smart bin, and there they are, all of them. I click create smart bin and they're there. Now before right clicking, I can now just select Control A or Command A and select all of them, and right click and click on generate optimized media. Don't do it, wait. The destination, we did not set the destination, right? So then in the destination, in the project here, we've talked about number 4, we didn't talk about number 3, optimized media and render cache. This is the most important bit. I have showed you this one, right? Well, why do you think we're going? So this is clearly the lowest quality, and this is clearly the highest quality in this list. Same story here. This ProRes proxy is the lowest quality, and this uncompressed 12-bit 444 is the highest quality, obviously, in this list. Did you get the point here in terms of we are going for the lowest, not really the lowest, just one above the lowest. Why? Because with the lowest, just like when you're buying stuff, you don't go for the cheapest. The cheapest always has a catch. The lowest one here is really bad. If you work with proxy, you're going to be working, editing. Sometimes you want to see some level of decent detail. We're not saying it does. Working fast doesn't mean we're going to work with rubbish. Okay, so proxy is kind of rubbish. Sometimes you need it. That's why it exists. The low bandwidth, LB stands for low bandwidth. Oh, you can see it here. We don't want to go with this one because it has a criminal compression ratio. It's got a 22 to 1. It's like it's killing 21 and leaves only 1 alive. So I go with standard qualities, SD. Okay, you can go with HQ if you want high quality, but in most situations, you're going to want to go with the one before the worst. Okay, so this is DNxHR for Windows and ProRes 422 LT for Mac. We set them here. Now, because this is a Windows machine, when you click, you're not going to find ProRes. Well, if you have a Mac, you're going to find ProRes. So this is, by default, it's HQX. Bring it down to SQ, okay? Standard quality for both of them. Well, I'm talking now about optimized media, and you notice that I've changed for render cache format as well. We're going to talk about the render cache, but we don't want to forget it. We're going to do it the same. Enable background caching after. That's for the caching. We'll talk about that. Okay, but you can do it less than 5 seconds, which means that if you are inactive, if you're not working with the DaVinci for more than 5 seconds, it starts creating the cache. But that's the cache. It's not optimized media. This is the most important part. Okay, what is the story of choose automatically? Well, simple. You can decide to change the resolution. If you are shooting 8K, then you can yourself decide what it should become. You can turn it into quarter, 1/8, 1/16. You know what I really suggest? I suggest to leave it to choose automatically, because Blackmagic Design in some cases is doing an excellent job, like this one. What does choose automatically really mean? It means that when you are bringing 8K footage, DaVinci Resolve looks at your timeline. Your timeline is what? 1080p? Like 1920 by 1080p? Hold on a moment. What's the point of working with 8K? It's going to bring it to 2K. It's going to bring it to the closest one to 1080p, to 1920 by 1080p. If you're working with 4K and you bring in 8K, it's going to bring it to 4K. Okay, so and if it's a 4K, it's going to bring it to 2K. 8K, bring it to 2K. That's why I recommend you always keep this at choose automatically, because it is going to depend on your timeline. Good, right? So this is something you need to do before you click on render optimized media, right? Save, then you come back here and you generate optimized media. When do you need to do this? When you're going to sleep, right? Because, okay, normally it's every time you go to sleep, because every day you get dailies and rushes. It's either you do all of this at the end and then you're going to do it and give DaVinci Resolve the time and the computer the time to generate optimized media. Let me click on this and show you. If you click on it, it's going to show generating optimized media. It's going to take a long time. Okay, I'm going to cancel it and go back to this menu. Please get in the habit of doing it every day, because if you're shooting, I know it can be quite challenging on set. You need to do the media login, and then you want to generate the optimized media, and then you're busy with the next shot the following morning. It may not happen, but should you have time or enough resources, your DIT, digital imagery technician, if you have one, is going to take care of that. So you ask him not only to do the login part, the cloning part, but also to do the generate optimized media. Okay, he's going to take care of that. So this stuff you do every day. If you don't do it every day, fine, you do it at the end, but please be careful that it takes time. So if it's a feature film that needs all of it to be converted to a much friendlier codec to work with for any NLE, not just DaVinci Resolve, any NLE, then please note that this is going to take time. Okay, so this is about how to make it. Now, if you are going to change the camera raw settings, we have raw. Look at this. Alexa. Oh, sorry, red. This is raw. Ursa. This is DNG raw. That's it. These two are raw. Okay. Now, if I, for whatever reason, if I change the decode quality, then for those raw files, I need to regenerate the optimized media. This is why, if you have raw, you first do the step of the camera raw, changing the decode quality if you wish to do so. Then you work on the optimized media. That's the right sequence of events. All right. Then once you have optimized media generated, you can actually render. Well, you never want to render your final project with optimized media, right? Because you're going to broadcast or go into theatrical release, to the cinema screening, and you don't do it with optimized media. You do it with the real good quality stuff. That's why you shot it. That's why you rented that great camera, or you bought that great camera. That's why you want the great quality. But sometimes, and most actually times before the final render, you've done an assembly. You want to review it. You've done a first cut. I mean, no one wants to see a first cut with the full quality. I mean, you can, if you have plenty of time, fine, but you can use optimized media for first cut, okay? For the early stages of edit, just to get an idea from the director of, or if it's yours, you just sit down and then watch the whole thing, but you've actually rendered it with optimized media. You can do it, just come here to use optimized media. So when you click on this, then it's going to, obviously it's going to render much faster because it's taken from the friendlier format and it's going to render it faster. That's why you use it. It's just for your own review. or the review with the clients, just tell them, okay, we're using optimized media, this is not the final quality, but we just wanted to have your view on the cut. Okay, is this the cut that you have in mind? Does this tell the story right? Or did you have any comments or something? So before uploading it to your review platform, you may want to do it. Now, if you say no, every render has to be good quality, fine, disable it, but that option is there for you if you want. Okay, and the final bit for optimized media is once you have finished, you've rendered your final project, you're done, you have delivered. You have delivered. Then you come here to playback, delete optimized media. To make DaVinci Resolve 16 run even faster, you want to work with the render cache. What is the render cache? Render cache simply means that DaVinci Resolve is going to render in the background those clips that have heavy fusion effects, that have color grades, and DaVinci Resolve is going to create a video file on your disk in the background that has those effects baked in. Those color grades and effects will be baked in the video. So you'll be actually playing that rendered video in your playback. How to do that? Number one, we are going to follow the same steps as we have done for the optimized media. So that would be preferences. You make sure for media storage that you have a reasonably fast drive, scratch disk, listed as number one here. Good, that's number one. Number two, we go to our master settings under optimized media and render cache. Now we talk about the render cache. It's exactly the same story. Optimized media resolution, that's for the optimized media. We talk about the format for the render cache. We have done it when we talked about optimized media, and it's a good practice actually to get it sorted at once, so you don't do one by one. I'm now just talking about each topic separately, so that's why I come back to it, but it is already set. We've already done it during optimized media. This is the choice for Windows, DNxHRSQ, and for, let me just put this one back to the default, and for Apple ProRes, for Mac, you go with Apple ProRes. You remember this? Okay, it's just a reminder that for Windows, we go for the one before last. We're going for this friendly format for all NLEs, and with this low, but not the lowest quality. It's just one before the lowest, and same story applies for the Mac. Okay, we've seen this during the optimized media. Okay, let's come back here, and we are going to talk about the enable background caching after. What is this? So DaVinci Resolve is going to look at your activity. If it notices that you're not working for 5 seconds, it will start creating those files. Otherwise, it lets you work. You could bring it down, and I'll bring it down to 1 second, just so I can demonstrate actually that render cache is happening in the background. Then you have a few choices here, and they end with in user mode, in user mode, in user mode. We'll come back to this. Okay, I'm going to save and come back to it because I need to explain what the user mode is. Playback. The next step is going to be to come to the render cache, and then you activate it. It is by default, let me just go back. It is by default none. This is how you always find it. Render cache none, which means that it is not running until you tell DaVinci Resolve, please create the render cache. You have choices between smart and user. Smart simply means that DaVinci Resolve is going to take care of itself. It will look at clips one by one and then decide which one requires caching and which one does not require caching. And I really strongly recommend you go with smart always. Almost always, let's just say always, because when you're working on a feature film or any other project, you're going to have plenty of footage, hundreds of files. You want to focus on your creative decisions, not on those cache decisions, because you want DaVinci Resolve to know what's going to slow down the playback and take care of that. Instead of you thinking, oh, for this file, which happens to be probably the 115th file, you've applied some fusion effects. Do you think I should cache? Maybe, maybe not. This is not for you to take care of. Let's DaVinci Resolve take care of that. Should you want to have that much control, and if you have all the time of the world and you're working on your personal project that no one is waiting for, then we could go for user, in which case no caching is going to happen at all until, and DaVinci Resolve is going to wait until you tell DaVinci Resolve, please cache this clip, this particular clip. And how you do that? By right clicking. Let's go with the user first to show you how it works. So I click on user, and let me go to Fusion. Just apply an effect here, something quick, blur, and then exaggerate it a bit, and that's it. Cool. I come back to the edit page, and you notice that there is a line, a red line. Red line means that there is something that needs to be cached, and it is caching in the background. Well, I did not ask DaVinci Resolve to do this, so why is it doing it? Remember, in the playback, render cache, I said user, and I said DaVinci Resolve is supposed to wait for me to decide. Why is it that DaVinci is now doing it without my decision? I should have full control. Remember, when we came here, and I told you, pay attention to this one. Okay, you've got user mode, and you notice that this is how DaVinci Resolve ships. By default, it is activated. I didn't activate it. And that's really smart from Blackmagic to say that, well, we think users are not going to be, not all of them are going to be knowledgeable about what's going on, and they might forget to activate the Fusion, the cache. They may forget to do to render the cache for Fusion effects, and you know what? We're going to do it for them anyway. Well, that's exactly the point of not using user and going straight to the smart mode. Where is it? Yeah, smart mode. So never waste your time, your precious creative decision time with caching. Let DaVinci Resolve take care of itself, because it really is, it does a very good job. So that is smart. Always go with the cache, and smart. Okay, but should you want to do the user one, when you right click, you can then click on render cache for particular clips. You could go with render cache for Fusion effects, and render cache for color output. Now you notice that Fusion, color, these are the two tabs, and if you have any effects in here, you are going to render different cache. This is why I strongly recommend you do not waste your time with this, because in the background, in the programming, Blackmagic has done a wonderful job in terms of complex caching structure. There is a different file for Fusion, and there's a different file for color. There are two different cache files, and they have a sequence. First, there's the Fusion, then there's the color. You do not want to be bothered with all of these things. It's some greatness happening in the background. Let it happen in the background. Okay, this is why if you choose the stuff and you go with color first and then Fusion second, is well, these are two files, yes, but the sequence is important as well. Okay, you could still do it, but don't waste your time. Okay, let DaVinci do it. All right, now that we have activated this, what you could do is, obviously, it's going to make your playback faster everywhere. Okay, if you're doing the playback here, it's going to be faster. If you're doing it in color, it's going to be faster. You could take it up till, just like optimized media, up till the delivery. Okay, deliver. You could deliver using the cache, and maybe thinking, hold on a moment, the cache is using, let's see, is using this format, which is the same format as optimized media. This is low quality. Yes, but you don't always render the high quality before, for the final, obviously. When you render, you have an assembly. We've talked about this. We have, well, the assembly is an early edit. This is not about Fusion. But if you have a color gradient that you want to get reviewed, or if you have applied a few effects and you've done some composites and you want to discuss it with other people or review it for yourself, and you just want to have a full idea of what's going on before the final high quality render, you don't want to waste your time by having the full quality thing. If it's just to have a flavor or discuss the appropriateness of some effects, you come here to advanced settings, just like, okay, I'm just cancel this one. Just like for the advanced settings, just like for the optimized media, use optimized media. You can use render cache images. Well, obviously it is deactivated. It's inactive by default. But if you want, you can use it for quick review. Now you may be thinking, wait. Those render cache files, they can be old, and I may have done some work that is not going to get reflected. Well, that's not how cache works. Every time you make a change to a particular clip in Fusion or in color, then you will always have your latest cache files. What you have is lowest quality, not the lowest, one before the lowest, but that's what you have. So should you need an intermediary step, just reviewing things, you can do it. It's going to be faster. So that's important to know that you can still do it. And then once we have finished everything, then we are going to deliver our project and be good neighbors and clean the mess. Just like for the optimized media, you come to playback. You have delete optimized media, same story, delete render cache. You have choices. You are most often going to go with all. If you want to archive the project and you don't want to delete the cache yet, which is a very smart decision because your client or you may come back with, you may want to change something later, go for a different look in the color grading, or your client may want to go for a different look in the color grading for whatever reason, if they have too many people to decide about the output. Then you want to keep your render cache because you want to use it. So you're going to go with unused. If you want to archive it, go with unused. If you think, no, we're done, this is done, finished, we're now working on something else, there are no more changes, simple, we go with all. Okay, you just delete everything and then archive it without any render cache, because the archive size is going to be smaller. To have a faster playback in DaVinci Resolve 16, what you can also do is come here to playback and go for proxy mode. What is proxy mode? It's quite simple. When you are working with the viewer, then you have the option to drop down the resolution of the timeline. So if the timeline is 4K, then you can drop it to half the resolution or quarter the resolution. If the timeline is 1080p, 1920 by 1080p, and you still want to bring it down to have a faster playback because you are in the first and earlier stages of the cut and the edit, you are actually strongly advised to do it, because when you are creating your assembly, you do not need the full resolution. When you are working on your first cut, you do not need the full resolution. When you are working on your fusion effects and working on color grading, you could sometimes go for the full resolution. So this is why you can activate half resolution. If it is 4K, it will drop, and then you will notice that for the playback, you hardly notice it actually, because this is red raw 4K. So because this monitor here is taking such a small part of your screen real estate, you hardly notice the difference for the early stages of the edit, because you don't pay attention to the details, the minute micro details of the image. You pay attention to the cuts, to how to tell the story best by cutting it. So this is how you can activate it. This is only for the playback. If you keep it at quarter resolution, let's go with this. If you go quarter resolution and you go to render, deliver, it has absolutely no impact whatsoever on the render. This is just your viewer, nothing else. Okay, so you can rest assured it does not get reflected in your deliver. You will want to know that DaVinci Resolve 16 is resolution independent, which means you can work in any resolution and render in any resolution. What do I mean by that? So what's the impact on working faster? Simple. You can come here. If you have project settings, the first thing is timeline format. And you've noticed up till now, this master settings category has like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have worked with 4 out of those 5 to accelerate, with 3 up till now. And now we're going to work with the 4th one, which is the first time format. So timeline resolution, you may be working with 4K if the delivery is 4K or 1080p. Even if it's 1080p, this one, you could still drop it down to 700, this one. But wait, my delivery is 1080p. I know, but you don't have to work in this resolution the whole time. You could work in 720, and then before rendering, this is different. Okay, let me just cancel. This is different than the playback proxy mode. We talked about this and we said playback proxy mode, if you keep it on, it does not impact your delivery. Now, obviously, if you're going to change your timeline resolution, then you are changing your timeline resolution. It's something that you need to be aware that once you reach the delivery page, you want to change it in the project settings back to the high resolution that you want, and then you render it, because you don't always need to have the final delivery timeline resolution. Okay, so this is another way which has the same effect in the viewer here, same effect in terms of as the playback in terms of reducing the resolution, but you are doing it at a timeline level. There is a video monitoring setting that if you change it, it will make DaVinci Resolve 16 run even faster. Where is that? Especially, actually, let me show you. Here, project settings, master settings, video bit depth, 10-bit. Now you can drop this to 8 because especially when you are working, okay, let me save it. If you're working on the cut page and the edit page, this stage of the workflow is about how to tell the story. It's not about how the image looks like. In the cut page, you're mostly busy with your assembly and your first cut and some intermediary quality cuts. In the edit, you aim to reach the final cut and the picture lock. All of this is about telling the right moments of having the cut and probably some transition, although you're supposed to work with transitions very sparingly. It's not about the image quality yet. So what you can do up till the picture lock is make sure that this video monitoring, which is nothing but this, it's just this one. Okay, we've talked about the resolution, we've reduced it. Now it's about the data, okay? How much data is coming in? Honestly, up till the picture lock, up till the final cut, you don't need it. You just need 8-bit, that should be enough, because that's enough. So you can make it faster, especially if you have 8K RAW, 4K RAW, RED files, or if you have 4K H.264, which is even worse. Now, we've talked about optimized media, but still, you can still work with less bitrate when it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter in the cut and edit page. Now, obviously, you will want to come back and change it to 10-bit and save when you reach Fusion and work on the color, because then it is a matter of image quality. How you're working on the image, no longer on the story as cuts. There is another hidden menu setting in Fusion that is going to make DaVinci Resolve work even faster. If you right click here, you'll find proxy and auto proxy. Now, generally it's deactivated by default. You find proxy and auto proxy. What is this proxy and auto proxy? What's the story? Does it have anything to do with this proxy mode? No. This is different. This is for Fusion. And it tells you if you want, Fusion is going to render. Let me just apply quickly something, and it's going to be a blur again. It's just demonstration purposes. It's nothing really fancy, just so we have something going on. In proxy mode, and what's the difference between these two is this one is about what gets rendered to this monitor here. What gets rendered in here is going to be less resolution. So instead of rendering all the pixels, it is only going to process X number of pixels. And then I think, okay, yeah, I understand that one. It's less pixels, but who decides how many pixels get processed and how many pixels do not get processed? Well, you decide it. Well, it's already been decided by default, but you can change that decision. Wait. Okay, now before I go and show you where to change that, let's talk about auto proxy. So this one means if I activate it, it is going to give you a reasonable render, but not rendering all the pixels. So it's going to work on resolution. And auto proxy is simply exactly the same thing, but only when you are clicking and dragging on the controls of a parameter. So once you click and drag and release, generally you want, why do you do this? Because you want to see what is the level that you need to reach for a particular effect. Now, that your decision is based on what you see, and it is going to reduce it as well. For that, it will reduce the resolution, meaning it will process less pixels. So that could be your choice in terms of reducing this, because those effects already are clear for you what they do. You'll have a very good idea of what's going on. It's just a matter of resolution, okay? Not quality of the effect, it's just resolution of the image. Good. Where do you change this? Fusion settings up here, Fusion settings, and you will find under the general, yes, there's another tab for Fusion settings, not just DaVinci Resolve and preferences or project settings. There's this one as well for Fusion. And for the general tab, you will find proxy. So remember when we right clicked on this, proxy and auto proxy? This is the standard proxy. This one is this one. So for every 3 pixels, only one will get processed. You can make it worse, but I really recommend you just keep it as is, because you still want to have a good idea of what you're doing. Okay. And this, if you activate auto, then you will be able to make it more or less, or you can keep it as is. Okay, good. There's another bit that we happen to have next to this, which is the proxy selective update all and no update. What is this story about? Well, this one is as simple as for the thumbnails. So if you want the thumbnails to, let me just save this and say these thumbnails, if you right click on this and say force all tile pictures, you click on this, but you just get the icon for the that particular node. If you want to see a representation of the image in as a thumbnail in here, you can do that by coming here to that Fusion setting and you say update all. When you click on that, then you get the result of the work that is being done at each stage, at each node. This one, media in, there's nothing. We've applied the blur, this is blurred, the final thing is blurred, it blurred. If you have a color correction added here, if you just color corrector, yeah, something like that, then you can also say, for example, we reduce the saturation, then you notice that it's been desaturated here and desaturated. So you do get a full representation of this. Now, this is available for you. Should you want to disable it, very simple. You just remove the force all tile pictures. If you have a big network of nodes, you definitely are going to have big networks of nodes, okay, hopefully, because that means you're working on great effects and complicated ones that get you intricate details and stuff. You are going to be asking for a lot of thumbnails if you keep this open, okay? And by where's that Fusion setting here? Okay, and by keeping it update all, you're asking for a lot of stuff to happen. Fine, it's there for you. Please go ahead and work with it. But you could keep it as default selective, okay? And you could disable it here, okay? And then you look at the final image anyway. You do not necessarily need stage by stage, but you will be glad to know that, again, as part of the complicated cache structure of Blackmagic in DaVinci Resolve 16, every node has got its own cache. So if I have all of this, the final bit here is cached as a clip, and then this one is cached, this one is cached, this one is cached, and this one is cached. This is why when we talked about the caching decisions, I said don't go for user, just do smart, because it's really been smartly developed. Okay, so this is about the lovely proxy and auto proxy, because these are going to give you a good idea of what your effect is doing without necessarily rendering all the pixels, especially if you have a 4K timeline. There's another setting in the deliver tab that is going to make your deliver go faster, which is, and this is just a choice, you may decide to do it or not, updates during renders. You could keep it on, minimal, or off. And off means you don't want to have this monitor to update to show you the render, which basically means, you know, when you click on render, start render, and it starts playing, you don't need this, or you don't always need it. You may look at the image and see if everything has gone all right. If you have, you may want to monitor it at the same time as it's being rendered, although it's going to render quite fast, at faster frames per second. But still, you may want to do that. Should you decide not to do it, then you can, especially if you're not sitting in front of your computer, you just launch the render and you go do something. Then there's no point asking the computer to show a preview here and update it every time. You just turn it off. That's another setting that just when you need it or when you don't need it, you can disable it. These are students and professionals taking the course. Let's say while they're studying, they come across some questions, some issues. It's unclear, something is not working for them, or they think something is missing. The normal course of action is that they ask questions. So each one of them asks a question, and obviously I will answer their questions. So they know the answers, their projects go ahead faster, and they can deliver much better results. Everybody is happy. On the other hand, we have this guy. Let's call him Mr. Grumpy. Mr. Grumpy doesn't know the answer, but he does not ask. Instead, he prefers to hide behind his computer. So what he does is he gives a low rating instead of asking a question. The problem is that low rating does not help him. He is still stuck and he still does not know the answer. So the solution for Mr. Grumpy is to start asking questions. Okay, so anyone please who has questions, or you have issues, or you think something is unclear, or you think something is missing, while it should be part of the scope of the course. Or you've applied it and it's not working in your case. You just ask a question and I will answer.